mute themselves. We can get started. It's 5:35 and I don't see anybody else in the waiting room. My name is Burt Miller. I am the Broward County Council PTA president. I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight for this incredible town hall. We're going to begin with like Ali said, maybe a 45-minute resource fair. And then we'll get into the main event, the main town hall, which will start at 6:30. We have an incredible lineup of panelists tonight for you guys. This is a one-of-a-kind town hall that Ali and her team has put together. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll see you in a little while. Here you go, Ali. Take it on.
Thank you so much, Bert. My name is Ali Walford, and I have been a member of PTA since my oldest one was in kindergarten in 2005, and he was also a special needs student. So he's 21 now, and I also have an 18-year-old that just graduated last year, world of COVID. And my co-host today is Gail Moore from 211. So we're going to talk all about 211 in just a second, but let's let Gail say hi. And we're going to do a vendor fair a little bit differently. Like lately in our video world, it's been you watch 3 minutes that somebody's put together, but Gail and I are adding a little fire to the pot, and we're going to go ahead and tell you about our community partners. So Gail, give us a little something.
I'll give you a lot of something. Okay, my name is Gail Moore, and I am the Community Relations Specialist here with 211 Broward, your first call for help. I am so very pleased that you all have decided to join us this evening to really get this incredibly enriching experience. We have some of the heads of the special needs world here today, and you are going to get such a wealth of information, and you really are going to understand a lot about what we're talking about in terms of inclusion and ableism. And I will, before I get going too far, I'm going to turn this back to Ali, and then I will be back, of course, to speak more about our vendors.
Of course, of course. Well, we're going to jump right into it. So we have, except for with the Broward County Council PTSA, gone alphabetical because you know what? You cannot go wrong when you go alphabetical. So our very first organization that has a lot of different subcommittees that serve the Broward County community, they were originally started in 1930. You believe that, Gail? All the way back in 1930, a woman by the name of Cora Reed was our first president. And if I had thought about it, I would have looked at the list and literally counted, because that's the kind of person I am, about how many PTA, PTSA county council presidents Broward has had. But I can tell you that we do lead the state in participation with our other 66 partners. And I know that we have some members that do some national policy work. And one of the reasons why I love PTA so much is the advocacy, because in my heart of hearts, that's what I am. I am an advocate. I am an activist. And, just like to help empower people to become their own best advocate. So the National PTA was actually founded in 1897, and it was part of the National Congress of Mothers by a woman named Alice McLean Burney and Phoebe Alperson Hurst. And yes, I am reading, I do apologize. But like I said before, PTA is a powerful voice for all children, and it's a relevant resource for families and communities, and an advocate for public education. And we all know that public education could definitely use some advocacy right now. But what I love about our Florida Council is their subcommittees also. They have a diversity subcommittee. They have a special needs subcommittee. So many more I couldn't even possibly name. But we're in Broward today, so I'm going to go right, like you said. What is 211's motto? Your first stop?
First call for help.
First call for help. Tell us about what you have going on there and your brand new website, Ms. Gail.
Thank you. I am so glad that you're taking us at a look at our brand new website. I encourage everyone to please check it out. Things are new and so improved. And big part of what we do is our special needs connection. So I'm going to ask Allie to go over to services. And if you would go down to special needs connections and just click right there. And so a lot of what now 211 Broward was established in 1995, and it provides families with all of the critical connections to health and human services in Broward County. Now, our 211 Special Needs Connections serves those from birth to 22 years of age with care coordinators. And those coordinators provide direct interventions to families. So they understand those families' needs and preferences for care, and they can share those between providers, making sure that they're getting the right connections to the various systems of care and building those meaningful connections and helping those families through sometimes a confusing and difficult process. We have self-assessments as well as diagnostic assessments that we can offer for free for families. So if they feel that maybe something is a little bit different, or they're not quite sure if their child is performing in the way they think they should be, they can contact us and they will be assigned to a care coordinator who will walk them through that process. And of course, after which it continues through until their young adulthood, so that they can make sure if there's something else after high school, what are they going to get involved in? Again, those care coordinators are there. So sometimes we'll see people throughout the cycle. If you go to our services, our 211 Broward Teen Space, I'm just going to let you take a really quick look at that.
Did I hit Teen Space?
This is our new Teen Space website. And Teen Space counselors, what they do is they listen and they help teens with empathy and respect while empowering them with answers. And they go through things various from crisis support, gender and sexuality, mental health, relationships, alcohol and substance use, pregnancy and birth control, family issues, and we are a safe space for those teens that identify as part of the LGBTQIA diaspora. So if you're questioning and you need someone safe to talk to, they can contact 211 Broward and have that free and confidential counselor at the ready 24/7. Now I'm going to turn this back to Allie because I can speak about 211 for a very long time. And I just want to point out, I noticed she said alphabetical and A comes before G. So that must be why she pushed for that.
So, for those of you that have just joined us, thank you so much. We have an electronic flyer that has links to every single one of these resources. So that's why we're not putting them in the chat box right now, and you don't have to memorize them. All you have to do is click on that one electronic flyer that we're going to do right when we wrap up, probably about 6:15 or so. So our next organization is the Advocacy Network on Disabilities. And they have been around in Miami-Dade since 1970. They have been advocating for quite a long time in South Florida. So, you know, long before collaboration and partnering were buzzwords, they were the founding principles of this organization. And in the beginning, they were part of the South Florida's Health Planning Council. So originally there was a focus with individuals with developmental disabilities, but now they provide a wide variety of services and resources to individuals with physical disabilities, sensory disabilities, social emotional disabilities, as well as other ones. So one of the things that we're going to talk about later on today during the actual town hall is person first, identity first language. That's an individual choice. And if you don't know what it is, come back later and talk to us. But for me, my language that I choose is I choose to say the word disability because I don't that's my ability has been impaired. You know, everybody knows I identify really freely as a person who lives with a mental health condition, and it impacts me. So it disses some of my abilities. But if that's not the word you want to use different abilities, that's up to you. But I just want to make you aware that that's why I choose to use that particular language. Now, Advocacy Network on Disabilities, they have therapy, they have case management, they will connect you to resources, and they are really starting to pick up some steam here in Broward. So if you have not heard about them, they are just an amazing group of people for you to check out. And I think next we jump over to Miss Gail for ARC.
Great. So ARC, or ARC Broward, is established in 1956. And a lot of the major work they do is to change how people with developmental disabilities and life challenges are embraced and included. Now, this work is critical to ensure that people with disabilities not only live, learn, work, and play in their communities. A lot of times people will try to silo people who live with disabilities, assuming that they don't want the same things that everybody else wants. Well, they do. And it's so important, ARC's work, because they make sure people can access those things, whether that be socialization, education, empowering people to determine what they want for their life, and to, using their current abilities, make sure that they can achieve those goals. They have 9 locations and provide 20 programs throughout Broward County. They have 2 social enterprises, and these are just such a very big deal: ARC Educates and ARC Culinary, and they have groundbreaking work to transform the community by providing opportunities for people with disabilities, learn job skills, get job ready, learning to cook. There's just so much that they do over at ARC, but they really work to transform that community. So the programs at ARC start at preschool for children 18 months or older, and they continue through programs for adults of all ages. So from 18 months going forward, ARC Broward is there working and changing the lives of people who live with disabilities.
You guys can tell that Gail does this for a living much better than I do. My goodness. But if you want to talk about IEPs, I'm your girl.
Yes.
So now we've got the Boys and Girls Club. So the Boys and Girls Club was actually founded in 1965. A group of 5 community members came together, and they wanted to serve the young men and young boys in that old term underserved, you know, and basically what we know underserved means is ignored part of the population, that were in the Fort Lauderdale area. And in 1990, it really became evident that girls needed to be in the picture too. So that's when it became a safe and nurturing out of school time facility. And, you know, that we have the Boys and Girls Clubs today. They are inclusive, and you know, it's just one of those organizations that for me, I found I want to be in my neighborhood. So if my neighborhood had a Boys and Girls Club, that's where my kids would go, you know. So my particular neighbor didn't have that, so they joined the city swim team. But it's community is important, and that's exactly what Gail was talking about with ARC is live, love, and learn where you're at. And we're going to pass it back to you with Broward Children's Center.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning how very, very important it is to remain in your community, not just for the person and for the parent, rather, I should say, because, you know, parents don't look forward to 30-minute drive in Florida traffic to get to a program outside of their neighborhood. But kids, they want to be involved in programs that are closer to where they live, so that there's more chance of connecting with people that they can see again. It's hard to have, you know, and of course, COVID restrictions, but it's harder to have, you know, an opportunity for play with students who live half an hour away from you, as opposed to somebody who lives, you know, a neighborhood over. So that is why living and working and playing in community is so critical and so very, very important. So we move on to I'm so sorry, Broward Children's Center. And Broward's Children's Center was the inception was 1971. And a lot of their major work and purpose is to provide a network of care for infants, children, young adults in all stages of development. They have programs and services to those who are most medically fragile and technologically dependent individuals. So they have things from people who have mild developmental delays all the way up to people, again, who are medically fragile. They offer advocacy, comprehensive care, education, family strengthening, group homes. They have home health services, primary medical care, psychosocial services, respite, social services, therapies, and a bunch more that I'm not even mentioning. But they really are a very comprehensive agency filled with very caring and dedicated individuals to making sure that people living with disabilities are able to access all of those things that help make life better. So from there, I am going to turn it back to Ellie.
So a majority of our viewers are probably going to be children who have IEPs or 504 plans. Our hope for the town hall at 6:30 is that we're going to bring in people that are not familiar with this world. And we'll talk about some things that maybe they don't think about because they don't have to have on their front burner, is my kid going to jump out of the car when I'm driving? True story. Broward County Public Schools, a couple of years ago, they did change their exceptional student education acronym to ESLS, Exceptional Student Learning Support. And they wanted to make that a little bit more strength-based. But, you know, if you're not aware, Broward County has a close to 230,000 students enrolled and probably about 37,000 students with IEPs. So that's a lot of children that we need to serve in over 200 schools. No, I don't work for the district, but I have done a lot of volunteering over the years. But this would be that page that you would go to if you want to get in touch with the district level of supports. And so here you can see some of the discretionary projects, Fiddlers, or the Florida Diagnostic Learning Resources System, SEDNet, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, FIN, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But one of my all-time favorites is the Broward County ESE Advisory Council. This is 100% parent-driven, parent-run, and it is a lot of work. We are very, very lucky to have the chair on our panel today to share some of her experience with us. Broward County, if you guys didn't know, it has over 17 task force or advisories, and each of the advisories are expected to have an individual sitting on some of those subcommittees. So there's a calendar subcommittee. There is, you know, we have a policy 6000.1, which I believe is our progression policy. Representation is very important. So from membership of the Broward ESE Council, hopefully Jackie would get some help and attend some of those task force meetings to make sure that the students with disabilities voices are heard. And then of course their Facebook. Maybe you heard about their this event from their Facebook. What's really interesting about the Broward County's ESE advisory page, it was started all the way back in 2012. 2012, like that's a minute for Facebook, right? And of the 37,000 plus students with IEPs that we have in Florida, there's only 5,600 members here. So if you have some friends or neighbors and they want to become part of an online community, I know Facebook's for us old folks, but you know, there's some really good information that happens here. They announce meetings. They have 4 subcommittees. And I don't know if I wrote them down, but I bet if I scroll, we could see the subcommittees. So they have the Down syndrome subcommittee, the emotional behavioral subcommittee, and then their ACE subcommittee, which is autism community support. And that has been going on for a very long time. Our families that support children that live with autism are just absolutely fierce in advocating for their children. So the next one is me also. And this is our Children's Services Council. The Children's Services Council is a funder. So to the best of my knowledge, which I'm pretty sure is accurate, is they don't provide direct support, but they provide that funding, that much needed funding to organizations that will then give that direct supports to families. So earlier we talked about I always forget if we're supposed to say ARC or ARC. So I apologize to that organization, but I believe they're a provider of something called STEP. And STEP is something that helps our students that are in transition. So the the Children's Services Council was established in 2000. It was voted in by our voters. And then just as recently as 2014, it was reauthorized. They do have a special needs advisory coalition. And just really great information happens there. They get together. They have 3 different subcommittees that talk about education, systemic policy change, and something else I'm losing off the top of my head. But it is a great place. Now, typically parents don't necessarily attend SNAC, but when I was just a parent, that's where I went. I went there because I wanted to find out what was going on. What are the resources? How can I get what I need? Because, I need some support with my kiddo that's living with this disability. So I think it is time for me to be quiet, and we pass on the Center for Independent Living to Miss Gail.
Thank you. Now, before I go for the Center for Independent Living, I went past, so sorry, a very important B, and that's the Broward County Public Schools ESLS program, or Exceptional Student Learning Support website. So Broward County Public Schools serves over 32,000 students with disabilities, and they're tasked with offering free and appropriate public education according to federally mandated IDEA programs. So there is a number of services and programs that are available for students, and those students go from 3 to 22 years of age. This might be in a variety of settings, including general education, specialized day schools, and their hospital homebound program for those who have additional medical needs. Broward County Public Schools does an amazing job of supporting families throughout their tenure. And of course, there's so much that's going to be said about them tonight. I won't go into everything because you're definitely going to hear more about them. But I just wanted to make sure I did not skip over such a very important resource that we're all using, which is the Broward County Public School system. Next up is going to be our lovely folks at the Center for Independent Living. I recently had the chance to do a tour and engage in a lovely conversation with the folks over at Center for Independent Living. They've been around since 1991, and their major work is fostering independence and helping people with disabilities develop networks and supports. They promote self-reliance and advocate for inclusion. And you're going to hear that word again tonight for sure. And integration of people with disabilities in all aspects of community life. So they primarily serve folks, teenagers and older, but they will serve people of all ages. The only qualification being a person has to identify as having a disability. So they do everything from housing, ADA accessibility. Let's say somebody needs a wheelchair ramp, they can help them find funding for that. Or if they need a shower bar, they can find somebody who can install one of those. They have transition services. So as people are moving out of school system and getting ready for work or for other things, they have employment ticket to work programs. So if somebody is interested in working, then they can say, okay, let's get involved. You'll get a counselor assigned to you, and then they can start that process. They have assistive technology and equipment. I was able to see some of their computers that are for folks with vision impairments. They have computers that are for folks with, and specialized equipment rather, for folks who have hearing, either deaf or hard of hearing. And they have leadership. A lot of times people see that word disability and they think, well, you've got to be in the background. That's not the case. They are very, very big, and they were started by somebody who was very big on making sure he wasn't put in the background, making sure people with disabilities had a voice at the table. And so Center for Independent Living does a tremendous job of that. And I cannot say enough about them. Over 60% of the staff, I believe the percentage is higher, are people who are also identify as living with disabilities. So that's another wonderful thing about their programs. After Center for, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to turn it back over to you.
Well, and I can't believe it's 6 o'clock already. Like, we thought we were going to be done at 6:15, and we're barely halfway through. So we're going to have to pick up the pace just a little bit so we can make sure to start on time for our presenters. So speaking of that, Florida Inclusion Network, the regional trainer, they have a special name, Region 5 facilitator. Her name is Barbara Krakauer. She is one of our panelists also, as well as I mentioned Jackie Luscombe from ESE Advisory and Simone Hollingsworth from our executive ESLS director. They're all going to be on that panel to talk about inclusion and ableism. So FIN, the Florida Network for Inclusion, is a discretionary project. And that is their whole job. That is what they do. They teach the state, school districts, families, all about how to have those best possible peer, inclusive experiences. And so I know Barbara's going to share something with us really special, so I'm not going to let that out of the bag, but I do want to click on the resources tab just real quick to let you know and see that they have some archived webinars. So in this world of COVID, how many webinars have we all been on, right? How many have we sat down on? So collaborative teaching, they master scheduling. Master scheduling is very, very important. And I'm very excited for her to talk about her program that it's not her program, but the program that she's going to talk about. And then I believe the next one is me also. And that is Family Network on Disabilities of Broward County. Amazing advocacy organization. Family Network on Disabilities of Broward County are a group of advocates that help support families within that IEP process. So they will not only educate and provide the resources and the information, they're going to sit right at that IEP table with you and help you navigate getting that strongest, most appropriate IEP, which is individualized education plan for your child. And then next we have a twofer, which is not really, because I'm not really going to talk about my group. I think everybody knows my group, but I do want to talk about Family Star. And the STAR is support, training, assistance, and resources. They are one of the 4 discretionary projects that Family Network on Disabilities USA has funding for. So Family Star gets their funding from the Department of Health, whereas Parent Education Network, my organization, we get our funding from the Department of Education. Lisa Math, their program director, is on our panelist also. I know, huge panel, 9 people, like everybody's only going to get a chance to say one sentence. But they provide support for children that are medically fragile. They have the special health care needs. And Lisa has a wonderful, deep lived experience with mental health conditions as well. And I think, are you up next with JAFCO, or is that me?
Next up with JAFCO. Sorry, had a little mute problem there. Can you hear me okay?
All good.
Perfect. So JAFCO began in 1992, and major Now, JAFCO has all sorts of programs for children and adults, for those living with disabilities and those not living with disabilities. But we're talking right now about the JAFCO for Children Ability Center, and it supports families who are raising children with developmental disabilities. They have family enrichment services, resources, and respite care, all in one state-of-the-art center. You know, emergencies can happen at any hour of the day or night, and one of their clinical social workers is available to support families 24/7. They have respite services for parents and caregivers. Sometimes when you are a parent or a caregiver of a child with developmental disability, you can have some feelings of isolation, or that you can't maybe engage and participate in other activities, in social and recreational activities. And even though they understand your biggest job is making sure that the care of your child is appropriate and done well, they do offer a chance for respite so that that parent can take time off, or that caregiver can take time off, relax, and renew. You can do anything from a few hours or an extended stay. The center is absolutely beautiful. I've done a virtual tour of it. It's warm, inviting, has a gym. They offer daily living skills, music, drama studio. The children have such a great time that they're begging their parents to be like, don't you have something to do? I want to go back to JAFCO. All while the children are having a great time, the parents have that opportunity to take a break. They serve children from birth to age 22, and they do an amazing job, amazing group of people over at JAFCO. And after JAFCO, we go back to Allie.
So, and I just want to give another half little plug about JAFCO. They have support groups. Linda Sachs runs some amazing support groups, from grandparents to siblings. You know, it's not just the parents that are impacted when you have a child with a disability. It really is the whole family. And I
So
was
true.
mentioning everybody else on the panel, but I forgot to mention Stacy Hoagland. So now Joel, our moderator, he is not going to have to introduce anybody, because hopefully we've done a really good job of introducing everybody for him. But Stacy wears a bunch of different hats. She works for the Family Network on Disabilities of Broward. She works, volunteers with the Florida Autism Society. She's with the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council, running the Partners in Policy Making, which is an amazing opportunity if you ever get to do it. Class of 2013, very grateful and life-changing moment in my career of being an advocate. As I shared earlier, I am just so open and free and got no shame in my game with the stigma. I live with mental health, right? And you wouldn't be able to tell right now, but severe and chronic depression really is something I have to fight on a daily basis. So Mental Health of America, Southeast Florida, they have 9 muses. They have support groups. They have case management, I believe. I don't want to misspeak, but I think Liz had said they just started, got some new funding for one of their programs. And they are just absolutely amazing organization here in Broward. And they've been here since 1957. So we do not want any of these organizations to be hidden treasures. We want them to be shared with everybody. So if you are just joining us, I'm going to remind you that we have an electronic flyer that we're going to put in the chat right at the very end that has all of these organizations. And we already know it's not comprehensive. This is not everybody. That's why we have 211, your first stop for information, right, Gail?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And I think Nova's you, right?
Absolutely. So we have next up now, everyone knows about Nova University. That, of course, is not new. In fact, they're my alma mater, so I am very fond of the folks at Nova. But Nova has disability services, and what they do is they provide a lot of services. Let me tell you, I'm going to try to just narrow it down. But they have diagnostic services. They do psychodevelopmental evaluations for children and adolescents who are suspected of having or being on the autism spectrum. spectrum disorder. For children who are exhibiting developmental delays or who are experiencing early childhood behavioral difficulties. They also served children or adolescents with a prior diagnosis of autism or prior diagnosis rather of developmental disability. They have an autism education program which provides evidence-based treatment, ongoing seminars, caregiver follow-up sessions. They also have things like anxiety treatment, biofeedback, drug use prevention and treatment, treatment for ADHD, consultations, and they have psychodevelopmental evaluations for those from 18 months to adolescents who are suspected of having an autism disorder. So when it comes to children, they see people from 4 to 17, and they see adults 18 and over for mental health issues. And of course, all of the things that NSU does. I'm not going to get into the many programs they have, since we are right now focusing on special needs, but they do have a really enriched program. They also have a great program, which my nephew is living with autism, and my sister-in-law is taking them up on it now, which is their program for those folks who becoming guardians for children. And they'll be experts on tonight, so I'm definitely not going to talk to you about it too much. But if there is a time where when a child turns 18 and a parent needs to have that guardianship, they have their legal department who will help that parent through that process. And it's at only the cost of the actual court costs, and they don't charge for their services. So it really is an amazing program.
So we have a few folks behind the scenes helping us. So if one of our behind the scenes persons would pull up and put turning 18, I believe it's a .org, into the chat box for the group, I think that that's an organization that you guys should definitely know about. And unfortunately, we don't have that one on the flyer. So one of our background people should be turning18.org, I think, in the chat box in just a moment. Project 10, Transition Education Network. This is another discretionary project, and we could literally spend a whole Saturday afternoon just talking about transition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this one really brief and encourage you that if you have a child that is approaching 12, yes, I said it, 12 years old, as of July 1st, the Florida legislature lowered the transition age to 12. In the federal statute, IDEA, that Gail mentioned earlier, that Individuals with Disabilities Act, it is 16. But here in Florida, it's 12. They have just a ton of resources. If you were only to go to the training and publications page for Project 10, you would get an immense of information about that there. And our ESLS division of Stacy Wolf, she provides a lot of transition, is really taken some huge strides that I can see in the last 5 to 10 years. And then SEDNet, I believe that's mine too, isn't it, Miss Gail?
Absolutely. You're the SEDNet queen.
You know what? It's back to mental health. That's what it is. You know what? You got to name it to claim it, right? And I own it. So SEDNet is another discretionary project from the state. And how they got SEDNet out of multi-agency network for students with emotional behavioral disabilities. Not real sure on that, but Shantae Cummings is our coordinator here in Broward. Absolutely fabulous, and they provide workshops as well. I learned about the calming jar from their previous person, Dr. Gressick. Lots and lots of great resources from SEDNet if you are living with a child that is experiencing the wide variety of mental health conditions, whether it is a conditional one that's just been brought on by situation, or like myself, it's something that I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. So definitely got to look into SEDNet.
Thank
Miss
you,
Gail?
Allie.
Oh, thank you.
I am actually wanted to also thank you for, really working on reducing the stigma. We need to speak about mental health. So often people live in this, I've got to be quiet about it. I can't tell anybody about it, especially when you're talking about, certain, you know, backgrounds and certain cultures. I'll speak about my own West Indian culture. People don't discuss mental health issues, and living in silence does not work. Audre Lorde says your silence will not protect you, and it's true. It is when we can claim identities and we can actually go ahead and get treatment for things, and we can live a lot better if we're open about it instead of just saying, well, we won't talk about it, we'll keep this private. Privacy does not work when it comes to needing to reach out and getting treatment. So I appreciate that a lot, Ali. I am going now to United Community Options. Now, you're going to say, well, what is United Community Options? Well, they've been with UCP since 1947. In fact, they were a part of UCP, and they decided to develop their own agency to refocus on other things, but they're absolutely still, definitely a major, wonderful organization. And people, you all know UCP has been around since 1947, and they work to serve children and adults with a wide range of needs and abilities, including physical, intellectual, neurological, developmental delays, many, but including things like cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, people on the autism spectrum disorder, Prader-Willi, epilepsy, traumatic brain injury, people who are technology dependent or medically fragile. They serve also typically developing children and adolescents in a lot of their programs. So they have programs that include for children after school, early intervention, education in home respite, residential group homes. They have summer programs for adolescents. They have their STEP, or the supported training and employment programs. And adult programs include assistive technology, employment skills, lifelong learning program, because learning is a lifelong process, and they make sure they can support somebody from that child all the way up to a person who is older. So they're residential group homes, again, for adults, and they have social and recreational programs. So UCO, formerly part of UCP, amazing organization. And I am going to go back to Ali.
And I think I saw Fabiola pop in earlier. They also provide direct advocacy. When I was going into our IEPs, individualized education plans, early on, it doesn't come with a manual. Our typical developing traditional children, they don't come with a manual. So if you have a child that has some extra needs or that disability, having an advocate or someone with you can be of great help. One of my favorite partners and partnerships, again, is with NOVA, but as well as and its CARD, and that's that Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. They have just too many resources to even begin to talk about the support groups, the case manager, the informational, the social. It's really a fabulous organization, and it's a whole life. From beginning of life till end of life, a CARD will be with you and your family if you choose to have them. And I think the last two are you, Ms. Gail.
Well, thank you very much. So one of those last ones we see is United Way. So trying to say what United Way does in less than half an hour would be a very difficult thing, but I will kind of narrow it down. And I'm not just saying that they're difficult, and I'm not just saying I want to get it right, because United Way, of course, it funds 211. They're one of our funders. So they support literacy. Apparently, I'm having a little problem with that word. And they ensure that people who need answers, that 211 is there to help them get connected to services. They help when somebody does not feel okay or alone or having deep emotional pain. It is okay to not be okay. And they help ensure that we are there 24/7, providing the most comprehensive community resource portal, which is also available to members of our community and people who literally are coming from my situation is I needed help. I needed help paying for my electric bill. And before I started working here, I called. So when I started working here, it was like, oh, your number's already saved. But before I started working here, and what did I do? I called 211 because I needed assistance, and they were able to connect me with an agency that offered me assistance to help pay FP&L, because FP&L will put you in the dark. So that is just part of what United Way does, but they have specialized resources for caregivers, veterans, older adults, people with disabilities, mental health, sexual health. They have programs for people who need home delivered meals and who need that additional emotional support. So if you have a senior who's living alone, those people come with a meal, but they also come with that support of having another person there, somebody they can talk to, somebody who's checking up on them. So I'm seeing that there's an issue with sound. Is that me only? Is anybody else hearing that?
I can
How
hear
do I
you.
sound? Do I sound okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just keep going, but that is just part of what United Way does. Then we also have YMCA, and they are a leader in serving those people with disabilities, with special needs, and with developmental challenges. They have a goal of inclusion. There's that word again, and they want to make sure that children can take part in the same activities as their peers are with their peers and create that mutual sense of belonging. Some of their programs include project-based learning like STEAM, STEAM, YFIT, family-involved initiatives, literacy activities, buddy activities, swimming, sports. I can't even get into all of the different sports programs that they have available. They even have high school programs that provide opportunities for older students to learn, grow, and thrive as independent members of a community. We know that YMCA does have programs for all ages, but their special needs programs are for those that are in school. So it will go up to that 22, if I'm not mistaken. I might be a year off on that age. But the YMCA is just one of those fantastic, fantastic organizations that are there. They are in the neighborhood. They are providing services for people. You can, and they also are affordable, because a lot of programs, let's face it, might be priced out of what some people can do. But the YMCA does have programs that are more income-based, as well as programs that are just very low cost. So they're just an amazing, amazing organization.
So, Gail, I can't believe we did it. That was just that was quick. It's 6:22. Here is that flyer I was telling you guys about. So I'm just going to take this link right here, and I'm going to put it right in the chat box. And I want to reiterate, we didn't miss. We could not include everybody. As inclusive as we wanted to be, as important as it was to us to be inclusive, we just had to hit those broad strokes, and we knew we only had 1 hour to do it. So hopefully that was a really good information for you. Please share this flyer with people. It is a live dynamic flyer. So, Gail, I'm going to add Special Olympics. Could not believe I forgot to put Special Olympics on there.
And please, if you find yourself saying, hey, what about the other, dozens and dozens of agencies out there that you didn't mention? Remember, call 211, go to our new website. and we will definitely connect you. So if you let us know what you need, we will tell you where you can go, whether it be those wonderful folks at the PTA, PTSA, or at one of the organizations that we mentioned, or one that we weren't able to cover. There are so many great places out there that can offer assistance and help for families. So we want to make sure people are using the resources that are there for their disposal.
All righty. And I think now we turn it back over to Joel. Or Joel, Bert, we're not quite ready for Joel yet.
Yeah,
I know Joel likes the microphone, but we're not quite there yet.
yeah, let's take a
breath.
breath, let everybody stretch and get something to drink. And before we start, we'll probably end up starting probably around 6:35 because there's people coming in. So be back here by about 6:30. So we'll get started as quick as we can.
Thank you.